Welcome to the MMHP and the 99. Podcasting from the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame in downtown Bay City. Channeling all styles and eras of Michigan music history. From the city by the bay. And now, Dr. J, Sir Fred, Mr. Mike, and your host, Scott Baker.
We're back here at the Michigan Rock Legends Hall of Fame here in Bay City, Michigan for a first fall episode here in 2023. And when we started out almost 2.5 years ago, at least at this point, Freddie's been talking about this one gentleman, and he's like, I've got to get him on the show. And one thing led to another, and they have good contact, good history, and this gentleman has been pretty well known. His name's popped up on our show over the years, and tonight we have Mr. Lafayette Yarbrough here. He made it tonight. How you doing, Lafayette?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
Thank you for making it to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank Freddie. He's been working this one for a while.
Fred. Yeah.
We're gracious to have you, man.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here.
Oh, I'm going to let you guys fire away because there's a lot of questions that we've been storing up for you.
You were raised down in Mississippi.
Yes, I was. I
looked up that town, Noxapeter,
Mississippi. It sits right in the central part of the state. It's a town of about 200 people, and actually we lived outside of there, out in the country on the cotton farm. And my father always said that every time our town never grew because every time a baby was born, a guy left town. So, so it never grew. And
it did, because the population in 2021 was 385.
Whoa. Oh, my goodness.
My gosh, almost doubled.
They tell me that the welcome sign and the come back again sign is on the same sign.
So Lafayette, is this where you learned to play guitar?
It was. I got my first guitar when I was 13 years old. I ran a little cotton poisoner. You turn a handle and then spray the poison out into the cotton to kill the boll weevils. And I made myself up $23, and my mother ordered it from the Sears and Roebuck Company. It was a $24 silver tone, and I'd give anything if I still had that, but I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Well, who taught you to play, or were you self-taught?
Well, I learned a lot on my own, but there was a man across the swamp named R.G. Greenwood that was a fiddler and a guitar player. And the day that it came in the mail, the rural mail carrier, I walked across the swamp, and he put the strings on it for me and tuned it up and showed me a couple of chords. And over the next 3 or 4 years, he'd play the fiddle, and he would sit and nod his head for me to change chords. And it taught me to have that ear to hear the chord changes. And also, I learned a lot from my uncles. I had 8 uncles, and my grandfather, Thomas Jefferson Sanders, who lived to be 102 years old, was a fiddler, coon hunter, fisherman, cotton farmer, and the greatest old man that I ever met.
Oh.
And I would, all the rest of the grandchildren, they had 11 kids, my grandparents did. And of course, all their kids had kids and grandkids. And we would go there to their house a lot on Sundays for Sunday dinner. And while all the other kids would be out running around the yard, chasing each other and hide and go seek or whatever, I'm sitting in a corner listening to my uncles play music, because it was amazing to me how they could take these instruments and make them sound like that.
Well, were they playing country music?
Yes, they were old-timey fiddle tunes mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Sally Gooden, Orange Blossom Special, all them old tunes.
Wow, there we are.
Yes, and some of them were pretty good musicians. They never did it for a living, but as the years went by, there was three of myself and my two brothers, Larry and Marzine. Marzine was the drummer, Larry was a key player, and I was a guitar player and saxophone player and keyboard player, and we all made our living playing music, and for many, many years. And there's a lot of my cousins in Mississippi that were grandsons of my grandfather also that became musicians, but nobody made their livings off of it except for the three of me and in my family. Three.
Was the Grand Ole Opry and the Louisiana Hayride, were those kind of staples that everybody listened to in town?
My father got an old battery radio, and we put a wire out a window and hung it up on a pole outside, and we'd get the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday night. But I can't remember listening to the Louisiana Hayride. But
Okay.
I remember the Grand Ole Opry very well.
Well, that had a powerful signal, probably more powerful than the
It
Louisiana
was
Hayride.
In between, a little static here and there.
Yeah.
We would listen to Roy Acuff and people like that, and my ear was glued right to the radio
Okay.
every Saturday night.
So was Roy Acuff, maybe if you were looking at a country musician that would have been an inspiration for you, was it Acuff or Hank Williams or
Well,
any of
actually,
those guys?
my biggest influence in the music business was a guy from Luttrell, Tennessee, named Chester Burton Atkins.
Oh, there we go.
I never could figure out how he had kept that going with that thumb and those fingers. And one time I was over to my Uncle Marvin's house at Christmas time, and he had bought a EP, extended play, 4 songs on a 45 of Chet Atkins playing Christmas songs. And I says, well, how in the world does he do that? And my Uncle Marvin goes back in the back room and got a thumb pick and put it on his finger. And he says, here's how he does that.
Wow.
And so that's my first introduction to a thumb pick. And I used one my whole musical career.
Wow, there we go.
Yes. And I still do it today.
Yeah, well, Ike Everly, the father of the Everly brothers, was considered an outstanding thumb-picking guitarist
He
as
was. And of course, you had Merle Travis.
well. Yes, definitely.
And there's a lot of disciples around of all those people.
Right.
And there's some awful good ones. There's a fellow from Australia that I just love, Tommy Emmanuel,
Oh my lord!
and he's just totally incredible.
Yeah, he's just
I watch him and just say, how does he do that?
he's to this day he's one of the top.
Yes, he is.
If not the
yes, he
top.
is.
Yeah. Well, what made you decide to move to Michigan after going through high school?
Well, I was still in high school my last year, and that was in 1956, and I was 17 years old. Down there back in the old days, if you could do the work, you could make 2 grades in 1 year. So I made the 2nd and 3rd grade. So I graduated at 17 years old, and my father and his 2 brothers heard about a place called Flint, Michigan, where you could make $2 an hour, and that was really something. I think they
that
saw
was big
it.
money in 1950s.
I think they saw it in the Jackson Daily Ledger or something that I can't remember the name of the newspaper, but they said, "Come to Flint, Michigan, and in other words, you'll have money in your pocket."
Yeah.
And my father and his brothers, they would get in an old Mercury and come to Michigan and work all winter long and then come back in the spring, put the crops in. And by this time, us boys were getting big enough. I'm from a family of 9 children myself, and there's 6 boys in my family. And we would work the crop, and my dad would come back to Michigan. And finally, one year, he got his, what they call it, got his seniority in. He got his 90 days in, and he called up. He came back home, and he told my mama, he said, Hilda, I want you to sell all them cows and sell that tractor and sell all that stuff, and we're going to move to Michigan. And it just broke her heart because she had to leave her her mom and dad and all her family. But we moved to Michigan in 1956, and I was 18, just turning 18 years old. And
Okay, 1956. So Elvis really enters the picture big time in 1956. Was he someone that you were into in a big way?
Yeah. I tried to imitate him and stuff, like a million other boys did, And my brother and I went to a hitchhike to Meridian, Mississippi, to a Jimmy Rogers Memorial one year. That's about 35 miles from where we're from. And believe it or not, we're walking across the street and we meet Elvis, Bill Black, and Scotty Moore walking the other way. And I says, "Hello, Elvis," and he go, "Hello, boys, how you doing?" So believe it or not, I spoke to Elvis.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
And I never forgot that.
Yeah, with the famous trio there, Elvis, Scotty, and Bill. Man.
Scotty and Bill, and that night at the big show, he followed a guy named Hank Thompson and the Brazos Valley Boys, which had about 4 fiddles, twin steel guitars. He had about a 16-piece band. And Elvis came out and he said, "I'd like to introduce my orchestra to you folks." He said, "This is Bill Black and this is Scotty Moore."
And I'm sure he brought down the host, too.
Encore after encore. Yeah, really.
Yeah.
With 3 people on stage.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that would have been really something to see him back in those days.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, wow.
And so we got to see him live, and then got out on the road and hitchhiked back home. Yeah.
So you moved to Flint.
Moved to Flint. Yes.
That's when you start playing professionally, right? Eventually, anyway.
I did. I was there for a little while, and my dad brought a fellow home from the shop where he worked, and he played mandolin and sang real high tenor. His name was Red Mashburn, and he liked to do bluegrass music. And so we got a little bluegrass thing together, and we did a lot of the 2-part harmony, Louvin Brothers songs, was just great. And I always said that, Red Mashburn, he can't sing so high, he could sing tenor to a brake squeak, And but after a while, I went out one Friday night with a friend of mine to a place called the Wagon Wheel Lounge, and there was a band called Eddie and Don and the Louisiana Playboys playing there.
This is in Flint?
This is in Flint, and my friend went up and asked them if I could sit in with them. So they said yes, so I got up and I played a Chet Atkins song called Rainbow, and I sang 2 Elvis songs. And they were starting the next week, 6 nights a week at the Yellow Jacket. And they already had a guitar player, but unfortunately for him, I got that job starting the next Tuesday night, a 6-night a week job, making $10.50 a night. That's $63 a week.
Oh, man.
And so that was, but that's as much as I had gotten a job at General Motors by then. And that's as much as what I was making in the shop.
Right.
So that was my start in the music business.
Well, being able to kind of imitate Elvis Presley probably didn't hurt you
No, it didn't.
when it came down to getting that job.
It did not, and I tried to do some of the action, and wear the clothes that he wore as much as I could afford at the time, and but it was that's how I started out, and about 6 or 8 months later, there was two partners, Eddie and Don. They were partners in the band. They were leaders of the band, and they came in one Sunday night, and something happened with the boss, and they got fired. And she asked me if I would like to take over the band. She said, "I would like to have you stay because they're going," and so that's how it started. That started off in the LaSabres. Right there.
Okay, well, I saw a picture of you with a group that had the name the Chuck Wagon Band.
Right there,
That was some brothers.
Was that before or after? This was after?
That was after the bluegrass thing, just before I did. I kind of left that part out. It was two brothers and two cousins. They were from Arkansas, the Hager brothers, and not the ones that you seen on Hee Haw, but
Right.
Same name. And I went up to I had gotten a little job in a gas station, and I was listening to Bob Dyer on WKNX.
Wow, there we go.
And I heard him advertise a show that they were going to have at the Unionville High School with Tommy Vaughn and the Wonder Valley Boys. And so I talked my mom and dad into taking me up there, driving me up there. And I sat in with them and did a couple of tunes and during the dance part. Mm-hmm. And they did, of course, Tommy Vaughn. He had a pretty good show band. He did good shows. And it was a big band. He had two steel guitars, and a pretty big band. It was very good. But I met those Hager brothers. They happened to be there that night, and they were looking to put a band together. And the band that you saw with the Chuck Wagon thing, there was a man named Les Emery that owned the Chuck Wagon. It was a famous restaurant in Flint, like a steakhouse. And he also booked some bands, and he had he owned a recording label, Chuck Wagon Records, and he booked us for a while, and that we didn't record for him, but that was the band that you saw.
So he would get some kind of like advertising for his restaurant because you're playing around. Right?
He'd book us all up through the thumb area.
So, but what year is this, Lafayette?
This would be 57, 58, right along there, 57 probably.
So it was right around that time or shortly thereafter that you recorded that great little rockabilly song, Cool, Cool Baby?
Well, it was right at this time. I had met this man named Billy Martin from Pontiac, and he knew a man from Detroit named Mr. Bartley that owned the Bart label in Detroit. And he introduced me to, he was going to record in Cleveland, Ohio, and Mr. Bart, I went down and auditioned for him, and he wanted me to record also for his company. And he was paying for this session in Cleveland, Ohio, for the two of us, Billy Martin and his band, and I, and some guys that I took with me, and that's how that came about. It was that song. They took me down to the projects in Detroit, and it was a really nice gentleman, a black man, a blind man named Jimmy Rollins, that was writing songs. and I don't know if he ever wrote anything for the Motown people, but he was right in there to where all the Motown people came from. Around
Yeah, I don't remember his name associated with Motown, but that was his song, Cool, Cool Baby?
Yes, it was.
Well, that's a pretty good little rockabilly song.
Well, it stirred up a little excitement,
Yeah, well, Fred probably knows more about this, but that 45 is pretty valuable right now, isn't it, Fred?
I think so.
I've heard that.
I bought the other one here, the one that was reissued on port.
Now, we did that at United Sounds in Detroit.
Oh, okay. Cure for Your Love.
Paid for the session ourselves, but there was a man named Bob Cloud in Flint. He's the man that took my wife Vada to Nashville. We'll get into that a little later, but he took her to Nashville. He had the connections there to record there. And he also took Jimmy Edwards, Jim Bullington, his name was, who did Love Bug Crawl.
Oh, yeah?
Yes. Mr. Cloud took him to Nashville, and he was always going to take me, but he never did.
Just never got around to it.
Never got around to it. I guess he got busy. He was too busy with my wife Vada there. He took her to Nashville, and she recorded for Mercury and United Artists.
Yeah, wow.
And she used all the A-team down there, Chet and everybody,
Yeah, that's fabulous.
Yes. Okay.
So, let's see. We covered the Chuck Wagon Band. Lee Hagar and the Rhythm Rockers. This is that group that you then joined, right?
That's the same band.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that is?
That's
Okay.
all
That's
right.
the same band, yes. That's the same band. Most of them that was in the Chuck Wagon Band, I think we added one guy there. Anyway, I'm still
Yeah, there's more in this band here.
yeah, and I'm still friends with. There's only one of those guys that's left with us now,
Yeah.
And, but I'm still friends with him. He lives in North Carolina.
Yeah,
that's
very
Lee
nice.
Hager, the leader of the band.
You also, I don't know if it was later or not, but you recorded an album
Yes,
with Johnny Powers
we
from
did that.
Detroit.
We did
who I
that.
got to know
Oh, I'm
later
sorry.
on.
I'm sorry.
No, Johnny Powers.
Johnny Powers, Mike Balvano, or something like that. That's United Sounds over in Meade, Michigan, and we did a. We were doing the nightclub circuits, and our most requested song was a tune by I can't remember, the Double Shot of My Baby's Love.
The Swinging
Swinging
Medallions.
Swinging Medallions,
Yeah.
you got it. And so we did that album, and we were trying to think of a name to call our album, so we just called it A Double Shot of Lafayette and LaSabres. And we put that song on there.
Wow, that's great.
That was just a song. That was just an album that mostly that we just sold in clubs and stuff
Right.
where we worked. Everybody was doing that.
Were you writing any of your own songs at the time?
I'm not a writer.
Not at all.
No,
Okay.
not at all.
Is that the only time you worked with Johnny Powers?
It was, yes.
And
But years later, and just more recently, I know that he has passed on
right,
now.
just not too
but
long ago.
I got a couple of calls to do something that Johnny was doing, some of these rockabilly things
Right.
over in Europe.
Right.
And
Roller Coaster Records.
I can't say why I never did them. Maybe I thought my career was kind of over, but and to be truthful, I've lost some of the range in my throat,
Right.
and I just didn't think that I could probably do the songs justice, and I didn't proceed with that.
It's really amazing the appreciation that European audiences have for traditional American music, blues, rock and roll, rockabilly, what
Rockabilly.
have you. Yeah, I saw, they had a great rockabilly festival that they ran in Green Bay for a number of years. And that's where I met Johnny Powers and saw him perform. Jack Scott was there, Billy Lee Riley, so many, Wanda Jackson, was really great, and the people were into it, and even young people, which really amazed me. Young people dressed in the 50s style, the girls in the hairstyles and makeup that you would associate with the 1950s, guys, the same thing. It was just incredible how much they were into it.
This last year I was invited, expenses paid, to Las Vegas to that festival. It was held in Las Vegas last year. And there was a guy from Sweden that he was going there to get married, and he had a part in putting the show on. And his name escapes me right now, but I could find it, But he was getting married there, and he invited me to come there and be at his wedding and to do a few songs, and said, I'll even pay you in any way, and all expenses paid. And I had just lost my wife, and I didn't go. I just didn't think I could do it,
Well, it's very understandable.
Excuse me. But I have written him since then and told him, next year if the offer still stands, I will go. Yeah.
Well, I'm not getting married this time.
No, he's still married, and he's got a wonderful wife, and yeah.
You played. I think I remember seeing Lafayette and the LaSabres at the Fordney.
Oh yes, played there many times. Sure
I
did in
thought so.
Saginaw. Yeah.
Because I think that's the only place. Because you're one of the early rock and roll bands, and
I don't know. There was a guy that worked there for a long time named the John Brown Trio,
right.
Yes.
and they did a great job there.
He just died a couple years ago.
Oh, I heard that, and I heard he lived in Grand Rapids. And but the John Brown Trio had they had quite a following at the Fordney. They worked there for several years.
Yeah, they were the house band, right?
Yes.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And we would go in there for 6 weeks maybe, and then go out, and go other places. And but we did work for Mr. Dick Roberts in Rosemary.
At the time,
we worked for them several times, and they were wonderful people to work for. Yes.
Yeah, I remember hearing your band advertised on the radio, for various appearances and so on. Of course, Bob Dyer, went on to,
Sure.
be, I guess, the preeminent DJ around here.
Oh, sure.
And move from country into rock and roll. In fact, his picture along with Dick Fabian's are in there in the Michigan Rock and Roll Hall
I
of Fame.
remember Dick Fabian also.
Yes, those guys are great.
Yes, they were. Yes, they were. Very popular people.
Yes, they were,
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah. But,
So, okay, go ahead.
no, I'm still playing a little bit. There's not a lot of gigs out there right now, but
Well, you were going to Brownsville, Texas
yes,
every winter.
Vada and I had a place in Texas for 18 winters, and we would go down there and play for all the. There's 556 retirement parks in the valley, the Rio Grande Valley, and 400,000 people a year would go there. And it's really changed now, though. The thing with the border, because it was right on the border,
Right.
And we worked that valley up and down everywhere there, and it was a wonderful place to go, wonderful place to play. We did it for 18 winters,
Okay.
and it was just about just about all our married life, we every winter we went to Texas, and we loved that. Yes.
Now, before that, and this would have been probably after Lee Hager and the Rhythm Rockers, is when you formed Lafayette and the LaSabres?
Yes. We worked. That was formed at the Yellow Jacket.
Were any of the same guys in Rhythm Rockers? Did they go with the LaSabres?
No, just all the people that were in that band. My friend, after I formed that band, Don came back. The one of the leaders from the other band. He learned to play bass, and he came back and played bass with me. And I brought my brother in. We didn't have a drummer before. Played country, but with their band. Mm-hmm. And I brought my brother Marzine in on drums. He was just starting out, and we brought in an organ player named Carl Pearson. He's the guy that did like the Freeway thing and Cure for Love. He was with the band when we recorded the record that you have there. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So now you've turned into kind of more of a rock and roll band.
Yeah, we did. We of course at the Yellow Jacket it was pretty much country when we first started with Eddie and Don and the Louisiana Playboys.
Right.
Yeah. And but after that. We started doing just a wide variety of things. You know.
Well, you still heard country music in the top 40.
Well,
right through the 1960s anyway.
Oh, sure. You had Marty Robbins. You had all those people that were crossover artists.
Yeah, a lot of hits. Did you start playing some of the other nightclubs at this point too in Flint?
About this time, we moved from the Yellow Jacket down the road about a mile to a place called Beecher Gardens, and that was a really hot spot after we went there, and we played there about 18 months, and then we decided we wanted to go on the road. So we started out. We went to Sault Ste. Marie first.
Oh.
To the Northview Lounge across from the Locks, and we played there. And then I remember our second job on the road was the Satellite Lounge in Port Huron, Michigan, and from there was Woody's Lounge in Burlington, Iowa, and then from then on there was Club Peoria, and in Peoria it was Rockford, the Stardust in Rockford, Illinois, and just everywhere. You know.
So we're kind of playing at this point Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, maybe Indiana.
Midwest.
Right.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
The Midwest, and there were usually 6-night jobs, and some of them were 7. I remember in Illinois, we played from 9 to 3 every night, a 6-hour gig.
Whoa.
Every night.
Wow.
Yeah. It was brutal. It was.
Wow.
Yeah. And plus a Sunday afternoon matinee.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, boy. So how did you travel around? Did you have a station wagon, a van, or did you have a trailer for?
We had a van with Lafayette and LaSabres on the side of it.
Wow.
We need to see a
Chevy
picture
van.
of that.
And one guy drove the van and the other guys. But at this time, most of us were married, and we had a child or two, and we'd take our family with us when we could. And everybody would drive their own car, you know.
All right.
But it's we did a lot of work in Canada back then through the Harold Cutlass Booking Agency out of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and we made some of those brutal trips, like finishing 2:00 in the morning in Burlington, Iowa on a Sunday night, opening Monday night in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada.
Oh. In the winter?
In the winter. It could have been. Yes.
Oh, man.
That's just some of the places that I remember that we did back then.
Do you have any photos of that van that we can send to us for the podcast here?
I'm sorry?
A photo of the van, of the tour van? Some
What-
pictures? Do you have any pictures of it?
I do not. I do not. I wish I did. But I
Yeah, back in the day, just like I know in the museum, people did not bring cameras around with them. It's not like today where you have your phone. And everybody's taking a picture of everything. Yeah, so that you just didn't think of, bringing a camera with you and taking shots like that.
If I could have just known back then, all the years that we were going to be in it, and all the things that would be exciting to see now. The
just
memories,
pictures of the clubs you played in, and so on. Yeah,
I have a lot of that in my scrapbook, though. I do have a lot of pictures of the bands made inside the clubs, and in my music room at home, I have a lot of pictures of all my bands over the years, the different members, and a lot of the places that we played.
Well, Lafayette, you married a Bay City girl. Where exactly did you meet Vada?
Well, when we worked the Yellow Jacket, her name was Vada Bell Linton, her name was, and she was probably the best girl singer that I've ever heard. And I'm just a little partial, I guess, but her parents would bring her down to Flint with the Yellow Jacket. They were friends with Eddie and Don. Her mother was a booking agent around this area.
Wow.
And she booked a lot of the Opry shows around here.
Now, that's Vada's mother? Vada's
mother.
Really?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Wow. And she would book Vada on those shows, and they'd always laughed that my mother never ever paid me, she said. but anyway, they would bring her down to Flint, and she would sing on the weekends. She was still in high school. She was 16 years old, had the most beautiful long red hair you ever seen. and then Mr. Bob Cloud got her that record contract in Nashville, and she left. And I didn't see Vada for 40 years.
Really?
Yes. And she lived in Bay City, and of course I was traveling around the country playing music. And she was in a restaurant in Bay City, and she heard someone talking about my band. And she went over and asked them, do you know these people? Are they still playing? And they said, yes, they are playing down in the Flint area. And so she, one day I came home from somewhere, and there's a message on my recorder saying, "Hi, this is Beatty. You remember me?" And she, about 3 weeks later, she invited me up, and I brought my guitar and my piano, and we did a few tunes together and went out for dinner, and 2 years later we got married.
Well, take me back to when you first met her. Were you kind of like sweethearts back then?
No, her father wouldn't have let a guitar player get it within a mile of her. Yeah. She was just a beautiful little 16-year-old girl. And then she went to Nashville, and like I said, she never got that hit, but she should have.
Yeah. Well, you must have made some kind of impression on her.
Well, she said so.
That time I came over to your house and heard you and Vada and Bob Bender play.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That was a beautiful. I had hair on my arms that was sticking up.
Well, she
did that song, "What a Wonderful World."
Oh, she could do that to you. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And, we did 4 CDs together, because at our own expense. We didn't do them for a company, but we did those too.
And then you would sell them at your performances.
Sell them in Texas. We sold lots of them, and I still have some of those, and perhaps we can maybe get some of those in there.
trees. I could have all the gifts I want and never ask please. I could fly to Paris, oh it's at my beck and call. Why do I go through life with nothing at all? But when I dream of you. Maybe someday will come true. Clown in every room. I can even call someone to take me to the moon. I can put my makeup on and drive the men insane. I can go to bed alone and never know his name. But when I dream of you. Maybe someday will come true. But when I dream of you. Maybe someday will come true.
She did a wonderful version in Nashville with the Anita Kerr singers and the Jordanaires with the high singer Millie Kirkham. You know that name?
Yes, indeed.
Anyway,
sang with Elvis back in
she did.
Las Vegas.
She did, and she did a wonderful version of "I'm a Fool to Care."
Oh, that's such a great song too.
Yeah.
The old Les Paul Mary Ford too.
Right, and everybody recorded that one, Ink Spots, and
she
was
was
great.
a 16-year-old girl, and she would make you cry.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But unfortunately, we had 22 good years together, and we would go to Texas every winter, and we would travel out in Canada, played out in Canada. We went to Ireland, we went to England, and did just some little local things over there, and did a couple little pubs, and and then COVID came along, and Vada got COVID, and
Oh gosh.
yeah, and she passed away, a year and a half ago now. Yeah,
Yes, that was a very tough
yeah.
time
it
for
is.
everybody, and
Yes,
all over, not only the United States but the world.
yes.
Wow.
Well, you look so sweet walking down the street, but you're just as cold as the snow and sleet. Cuckoo, baby, don't you be good to me. Well, cuckoo, baby, don't you be good to me. Well, you like a dog from your head to toe. When I wink at you, then up goes your nose. Cuckoo, baby, don't you be good to me. Well, cuckoo, baby, don't you be good to me. Well, you better go out, cut across the stallion. Cuckoo, chick, mama, bitch it down. I'd be fine if you treat me nice. It'd be kind of smell that I like this style. Hey, you got me so, but if the breeze or we're both cats go. Cuckoo, baby, don't you be good to me. Well, cuckoo, baby, don't you be good to me.
Talk about those recordings
on
there.
this record here. I noticed 2 stickers, and I'm just wondering if he's somebody that with the record. Tony Sacco.
Who was it? I'm sorry.
Tom Sacco.
I don't know who that is.
It could have been just a guy who owned the record.
Yes.
People used to. We've got that Pagogo record up there. It's got somebody wrote their name on it.
I had a fella come just yesterday over to my house and had me sign a couple of records that he got off of the internet. Somebody's
how I got
bootlegging
this
all my
one.
stuff.
Yeah.
Even the double shot of Lafayette LaSabres album, he had a brand new one.
Wow.
No kidding.
Cover and everything.
Really?
And
That's real hard to find.
yeah, it is.
Well, that's
But-
why they're bootlegging him. Yeah.
Wow.
And charging probably a lot of money.
Well, that's not for here, but I guess. But he told me he paid a lot for it.
Cure for Love was written by Del Vaughn.
Dale Vaughn, my
Now-
friend.
Didn't he write, like, in the future, like the Michigan Outdoors theme song? Or
He
something?
did. He was one of the guys that did the Michigan, whatever the name of the show was.
Michigan Outdoors
Yeah, it was something like that.
with Morton F. Did
no,
he do that one?
No, it was
think it
not
was
show.
after.
It was a different show, but it was the same format, And Del Vaughn is a friend of mine that many years ago, when I was 18 years old, I had just come up here and got a job at General Motors for a little while, and I met him in there, and he was going to go to Fortune Records in Detroit and record. And I played lead guitar on his record of Rock the Universe, it's called.
Wow, how about that?
Are you familiar with that song?
Yes, and he did, was it Rock and Roll Grandpa? Was that another one of the Del Vaughn's other songs? He recorded a number of things for Fortune.
He did, but I only played on the one.
Wow, Rock the Universe. How about that?
I played guitar on, and he did. He also did "Cure for Love," a record that I did later that he wrote.
Okay,
that's one of those records there. Yeah.
Did he do that one for Fortune? Do you know Lafayette? Wow.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Yeah, Fortune was an interesting label. You know, there was just a lot of different people, a lot of different styles of music on there.
I just read a whole book that was just came out.
Mind Over Matter?
I have
The red one?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's taken me forever to get
so
through it.
interesting, and it took me back right into that old beat up studio.
That's what I was going to ask.
It was just like a little building, the cement block building that they didn't do a lot to the inside of it.
No, all the pictures look pretty primitive.
Yeah.
So, did you get a chance? Well, you probably must have met Devorah.
Pardon me?
Devorah Brown.
Yes, the Browns.
Yeah,
Sure.
and Jack. Yeah,
Must have- must
well,
have been-
Devorah ran most of the sessions,
Yes.
I understand.
Yes, she did.
And Jack was the guy who kind of, went out and pushed the records.
He did, and they. She was the power behind the whole thing. She was, yes, quite a lady.
Yeah, it was really an incredible story.
So did you play music through the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and that's all you've done is play music the whole time?
Yes, I did, but I had also, after I came back to Flint and quit traveling, I put my last band together with my brother Larry and a couple other guys, and we played the club circuit just around Flint, and I had a couple other businesses going. I had a like a lawn business, and also a lab cleaning business that I had some ladies that worked for me that did that. You know?
Wow, okay.
But I was also in the lawn business along with play music.
Okay. So you kept busy on a lot of different avenues
I did.
outside of music as time went on.
Yes.
I was curious if you played music your whole life. I'm like, this is incredible.
Well, I played music for a living most of my life, so but I would say the last 20 years I've had some other things going, and now of course I'm retired.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
So you haven't played really since Vada's
I
passing?
play a little bit at some of the senior dances, like Burton seniors and Davison seniors. They have dances, and when I get a call, I play piano in this one band, and so I do a little bit, and I play in church too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Who are some of the bands that you've shared the stage with throughout your time from Flint onward? Michigan bands that you're like, boy, we got to have a great show with those guys. Anybody stick out to you?
Not really. I didn't. I did do a show one time with Jackie D. Shannon for Bob Darr, I think it was, at the Saginaw Auditorium.
Wow.
We backed at one time when I had our country band right after Eddie and Don left. We did get a few jobs backing some of the Nashville artists that they would bring into mostly the nightclub things, not the big auditoriums, but the nightclub thing. We worked with a guy named Billy Walker, I remember. We worked with Marty Robbins.
Really?
Buck Owens didn't have his own band when he first started, and they would bring them in and they would hire us to back them to do their
Buck
shows.
Owens, Marty Robbins, I'm familiar with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's played with some pretty big time people.
Yes, yes.
Do you have any footage of you performing with them that's
No,
out on the internet
no.
somewhere that you've come across? Or
I do not. No, I got pictures of me with Jimmy C. Newman. Remember him?
I've heard of them.
Yeah.
And there's a photo of you with the Everly Brothers, you said?
Yeah, with me and the other brothers.
Where did you happen to meet them?
We were playing a place called Shula's down in Niles, Michigan, down by South Bend, Indiana, and they came in for 6 nights, 6 days there.
Mm-hmm.
This is after they were, they weren't quite as big as they
Yeah.
used to be. They brought them in, and we were the house band there, and we didn't back them. They had their own 3-piece band that backed them. Of course, they played their own rhythm guitars,
Right.
But we played with a lot of people there. We played there with, with Dinah Washington.
Whoa.
We played there with, we were just a house band. We didn't back her or anything. But Buddy Rich came in for a couple of nights and while we were there. And there was an old boy that came in from Florida that I enjoyed working with. You ever hear of a guy named Wayne Cochran?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders.
That's right.
Did he have his whole band with him?
His horn band.
Oh, yeah. That hairstyle of his.
Oh yeah.
And White James Brown.
That was
Yeah.
that was a wonderful time. He was there a couple of nights. And another interesting little story. There was a record store in Niles, Michigan, and there was a young man that worked there that used to come in and see us, and he put a little band together, and they recorded in one of the boys' garages. They recorded a little song called "My Baby Does the Hanky Panky."
Yes.
So Tommy James worked at the record store in Niles, and they used to come and play on our breaks at Shula's when we played there. So that's someone else I met.
Yes, Tommy James, boy.
It's and a few years later after he somebody picked that record up in Pennsylvania or somewhere.
Yeah, Pittsburgh.
And played it, and the rest is history. And he came back. He came back to Shula's with his little girlfriend from New York, and you probably won't be able to use that.
We'll stick with it. We're good.
But he was okay.
Yeah.
I think he just did a gig last weekend or something. Did I see that on Facebook? I think it was like in Detroit or something.
Well, he's still playing. He played in Bay City on a show with Mark Farner, wasn't it?
I don't know.
Oh, you didn't see that
You're
one?
talking about Tommy?
Tommy James.
Yeah, he still plays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's terrific. Boy, that's you've had quite a history, Lafayette.
Well, I've been out there for a long time. Yeah.
So you're still playing? You said you still strumming guitar every night. You're keeping your voice up, and
I can't play right now because I had a really bad accident 2 months ago, 8 weeks ago, and cut all the tendons in my finger.
Oh.
Then I got my hand hung in a grinder. I was sharpening something, and I know this is not part of the interview, but
no, that's part of what's going on.
But
right
you
now.
can still play keyboards.
I play keyboards. I can't
Right.
play my saxophone because the finger won't bend. So you got to bend it, and it won't bend yet.
So you played saxophone as well?
I do.
Where did you pick up the sax?
Oh, I picked it up 30 years ago. More. I played sax, tenor, and alto for many years. Just I'd be playing, and if there's a saxophone part on the record, I'd just pick it up and play it.
Wow.
Yeah. And
That's incredible.
but master of none.
Well, you might have some argument there. It sounds like you're pretty darn good.
Well, back in my days, early days, I'd go out and hear bands, and it would be like the Bossmen
Sure.
mainly.
Yeah.
But also Lafayette and the LaSabres.
Sure.
Like I said, at the Fordney.
Sure.
And, there were a couple other ones. Mitch Berlin. They had a band called the Medallions.
I remember the Medallions.
Because there were some people that were going, they had that record. And I'm going, no, that's a different band.
Yeah. Oh, the Swinging Medallions?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been an interesting run,
You ever get a phone call out of the blue for an interview, or to catch up with any magazines, or just to talk?
I'm glad you asked me that, really, because 2 weeks ago I heard from a man from Australia that can't recall his name, but I have the write up at home because he sent me the magazine. It's called something 50s. Something to do with the 50s. It's
not Shindig, is it?
It's no.
They just started printing that again a couple of years back. So
it's a magazine about rockabilly,
right?
And he said that my record got that 1958 and along there
Cool,
got
baby.
Lots of play and sold some records in Australia. And he interviewed me on the computer. He sent me 100 questions, and so I just I just did that. And he said, I'm going to send you a copy of the magazine, and he did. I got it in the mail just last week, and
It's got your interview in it?
yes, interview.
Very
It's,
nice.
it's a real nice, like a five page with pictures of all my records and a lot of these pictures that you have seen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where he got them, but
wow.
did one whole page of all of my records and stuff like that.
Are you familiar with this 10 CD collection called the Michigan Box?
No.
It's got Cool Baby is on there. I would say it's a lot of, it's a collection of, what would you call it, Fred? Mostly really small. Well, you don't have that?
No.
Oh my gosh. I thought you would have that. It's a
just
collection.
hearing about it.
Yeah, it's a collection of, I don't know how many songs. There's 10 CDs. There must be 250 songs or so. And it's all small labels. There's a lot of Fortune stuff on there. But all small, independent Michigan labels. And of course, Bart Records would fall into that category. But there's some real interesting stuff on there, like the first record that Dennis Coffey ever made. He was 15 years old.
I know Dennis in Detroit. I know him pretty well.
And I'm trying to think, it was a record.
Scorpio.
Yeah, but this is way before. This was like 1956, and he was still in high school, and he played guitar on a rockabilly song by a guy by the name of Vic Gallen on an independent little label. Maybe Dick or Vic Gallen put it out on his own label in Detroit, but it's a great little rockabilly song.
Well, he did.
And that's on there.
Dennis
Just
did-
an example of what's in this collection.
Well, it's interesting. It would be interesting to know who's selling these.
Yeah, how they got a hold of that record, and obviously didn't tell you about it.
No. But Dennis did some Motown stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he's one of the Funk Brothers.
He did that wonderful guitar thing on Papa Was a Rolling Stone.
Right.
Yeah. Well, he backed Del Shannon too on some of Del Shannon's big hits. He played in the Royal Tones.
He plays every Thursday or Tuesday at Northland or North
the
something.
Northland Lounge. I went there. That's where I met him, and I gave him
Oh.
two framed certificates, one for himself and one as a member of the Funk Brothers.
Okay.
That was fun.
For 6 years, I was with a really good six-piece 50s band in Detroit called Randy C. and the Valiants. And one of the lead singer, not the lead singer, but the lead guitar player and the best singer in the band was a guy named Bobby Sanderson, who is no longer with us. But he was Bobby Sanderson in the Royal Tones.
Oh, okay.
So that was his band.
Wow.
Way back then.
There we go.
So I got to play with him, and of course Jack Scott used to come in all the time, to the club.
Yeah, and it's amazing. His voice did not change. I mean, he sounded exactly the same, that he did when
some of them
he was
guys can do
20
that,
to like 80 or whatever he was before he passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've saw him many times and got a chance to meet him. What a great guy, and
Yes, he
what
was.
a terrific singer.
Yep.
Really had a very distinctive sound.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
So what's the future hold for you, buddy? What you got going on in the next few years? Anything you want to dig up or put out, or
I would just
get your archive photos out there in a book, or?
Well, I'm just wanting to get back to where I can play again. And there's, I'm seeing that people are starting to like live music again. Mm-hmm. And I think it's about time, you know. And, of course, at this point in my life, I don't want to work the bars anymore. The nightclubs,
right?
That's not. Yeah. That's I can't do that.
Well,
anymore.
I think it's a totally different scene. Wouldn't you say, Scott?
Absolutely.
I mean, it's nothing like it was.
Mm-mm.
But whatever comes along, if somebody wants me to play in their church, or somebody wants me to play on their record or whatever, I'll be glad to do that.
Awesome.
Awesome. And but usually when you get up this age, it's hard to go out, especially if you're going to be playing late at night. You know. Yeah. I can't.
Well, difficult difficult driving at night. I know it really bothers me driving at night, the glare from the headlights. It's hard. It's hard.
You have any of your old reel-to-reels of your tapes? Do you have your masters at all, or do you know where any of those are at?
I do not.
Okay.
I do not.
Okay.
Someone else like the records that I had, except for the one I don't know what happened to the master of that. I'm sure I ended up with it somewhere, or maybe a port label or somebody ended up with it. But as far as the people on the BART label, they paid for that session, so it was their master.
Yeah, it may have been lost, and copies now are probably made from the actual vinyl.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty typical, I guess.
Yep. Wow. Well, what a fantastic ride you've given us. This has been a great backstory. I mean, usually we get people saying they started at the Beatles and moved on, and you started with the Elvis thing.
Elvis.
Even before Elvis. To have your story has been very important to Michigan music, and we thank you.
Yeah, and
thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it so much. And by the way, you mentioned the Beatles. Yeah, we bought the Nehru jackets. Yes, we did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great story, Lafayette. I mean, certainly it's worthy of a book, I think.
Oh, that's what I was thinking the whole time. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I mean, that's just the whole story right from the beginning, growing up in a small town in Mississippi and all the things you've done over the years. Pretty amazing.
That Searching for Sugar Man movie came out about the South African, finding that music. I wonder if Australia was your hot spot.
Right.
And they need to do your movie and you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lafayette.
So, gentlemen, thank you for having me.
That was awesome.
Okay.
Fantastic.
The MMHP is hosted on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and our own Libsyn podcast site. You can also search MMHP 989 on Facebook for up-to-the-minute information, as well as both Dr. J and Sir Fred's album picks of the week, posted every weekend. Don't forget to look for Mr. Mike's local music live series, posted frequently on MMHP's Facebook hub, as well as Scott's Mid-Mitten 15 from Harvest Canteen, featuring one-on-one interviews with Michigan music artists. You can connect with Scott on the web at scottbakermusic.com, Dr. J at michiganrockandrolllegends.com, Sir Fred at fredrife.com, Mr. Mike at YouTube at Mr. BT1. That's MRBTEE and the number 1. Brought to you by Michigan Rock and Roll Legends, located both inside the Bay County Historical Museum on Washington Avenue, as well as Scotty's Sandbar on Evergreen Drive at the Bay City Middle Grounds.
On behalf of our hosts, Dr. J, Sir Fred, Mr. Mike, and myself, this podcast wouldn't have been here without the voice of the MMHP, Mr. Eddie Switek, the generosity of the Bay County Historical Museum, which hosts the Rock and Roll Legends Hall of Fame, as well as this podcast, Mr. Alan Garcia, all of our guests, and especially to the listeners. We want to thank you.
We did a song that we called it our song, and it's called "When I Dream of You," and that's on one of our CDs. And if you want to add some music to this to maybe emphasize a little something.
Yeah. Did you guys write that?
Pardon me.
You guys wrote that? You wrote that?
We did not.
Oh, okay.
We did not.
Okay.
No. It was recorded first by Crystal Gale, Loretta Lynn's
Sister, right.
Yep.
I saw her at
Don't make my
WKNX
brown eyes blue,
festival.
right?
But Vada
Her
did
long
the
hair was, and she was natural. Just
it is.
a
Vada
beautiful.
did the song. I mean, you would have to hear the two compared to each other to make your own decision. But Vada did it so much better.
Okay.
And,
Well, we'll make every effort to play that one, right? Scott?
I'm glad. I'm still recording, so these are my notes here. So, any other things that you would want to pop in on that? I mean, I think something from the early days. What was that?
how about
Cool Baby Cool.
Cool Baby
We should
Cool.
have that one on there.
I'm trying to get some gigs myself.
Oh, I know it's really hard. It's
Well, especially for a washboard.
How about are you and Ziggy going to work together, you think?
Yeah, we are,
Okay.
but don't have anything.
I was
Yeah, but I mean, that's a good combo, you two, I think, right?
Yeah, he wants to learn. Finally, I met someone who wants to do some Caribbean tunes.
Well,
So
okay.
he's learned some Mento tunes and some some
I was-
Hawaiian.
Well, I
stuff.
would think, like next summer, that would be a real nice music. That's kind of like summer music.
Because in Ann Arbor, when I lived down there, I got the Caribbean band all kinds of pool party gigs
That was in the 90s, right?
in the 2000s.
Did you? Okay. You always mention that, but I thought, maybe for whatever reason, did that end when you moved away?
No,
Oh, okay.
ended when Steven Springer died.
Ah,
2012.
I thought that I could go back to Flint. I was gone from Flint for 22 years and didn't play locally, except for Vada and I did do some of the assisted living places, down there. But as far as playing out in the public, it was about 22 years that I was gone. And after Vada passed away, and I wanted to move back home, I didn't want to stay in the house, And I bought a house down there, and it just didn't work out that I could go back there and get in the music business again. There's about 5 guys down there in one band. They got a bass player, lead guitar player, a drummer. Half the time they don't even use a key player, but they got all those little dance things tied up, and it's like a little click.
Oh,
And they don't let you in. They don't let you in, and that used to be my town.
yeah, right. Right, let me in. That's my gig.
Let me
Yeah,
in.
give me
All
a
you
break.
need is a keyboard player.
Give me a break. Give me a break.
And they do hire me sometime. They do hire me sometime. I think they feel sorry for me.
There was that one Flint Entertainment magazine that came out in the 50s, 60s.
Oh, the high spot.
That's it. And you were on the cover. I
We
saw
were
a
in-
copy.
Of course, that thing came out every week for years and years.
Yeah, but
and
it
years.
was,
Yeah,
the entertainment
Well, it's
thing.
according
so-
to if the club owner want to buy the cover.
Oh, yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah. You have anything that we could get into this room in here? Could we?
Maybe. I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wondered.
Yeah, because, it just depends on.
Like with my old record there.
Yeah.
I noticed you got some stuff in there.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'd have to get some kind of a display together. So I'm open to any ideas.
Yeah, well, let's do it before you have to do my my gravestone.
Okay, I promise you, we will not put your gravestone in here.
Yeah.
That's the first I've heard that one.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is
Very good.
That is wonderful that you have that. My God, who's got something like that?
Well, that's it. It's unique. That's for certain.
Gary's looking for the coffins now. It's going to be the next thing. We're just going to keep the Halloween theme here,
Yeah.
The ghost of Frankie Lyman wandering through the gallery.
There you go.
Yeah, what I was getting at
Halloween.
is, like we look for certain displays, like the one we just put up deals with bands from the Upper Peninsula.
Oh.
So we've got 3 bands that are in the Hall of Fame, and we collected memorabilia from those bands for a display. So that's kind of what you're looking for, a display.
Who would that be? Not that you. Is it?
Well,
Yoopers?
no. These are rock and roll bands.
Rock and roll bands.
The earliest one is the Galaxies, and they actually they recorded on the same label as Jack Scott, not Carlton, but on Guaranteed, which was a subsidiary of Carlton.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think we're talking about this in the podcast.
They're from Ironwood, way west
yeah.
of in the UP, and then there is the XLs, and they recorded with Ollie McLaughlin, who discovered Del Shannon.
Oh,
and you remember Barbara Lewis?
yes.
He produced all Barbara Lewis's stuff. He had his own labels. Remember the Cool Jerk?
Yeah.
That was on one of Ollie's labels. So,
Cool Jerk.
Cool Jerk,
Remember
man.
that?
Yes.
Remember that dance? That was the stupidest dance.
That's right.
My God.
And who was the other? Oh, the Riot Squad. They're from Escanaba.
Wow. Rat Squad.
Yeah.
We in our new podcast that just came out today. You were mentioning that. That was from January.
Well, right.
We were talking
perfect
about
timing.
Well, this has been really interesting, you guys. I hope I didn't talk too much.
No,
No, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
You're just supposed to
Wonderful.